From Stephen King on X. Oops. SpaceX launches are on hold after a booster rocket toppled over in flames whilst landing Wednesday. What do you say about that then, eh? When some hideous, bony-faced, creepy, geggy, zombie-looking, mentally ill lunatic like Stephen King tweets something like that, where do you go with that? SpaceX employs tens of thousands of normal working class stiffs. Full disclosure, myself included. And whatever you think of it, they're doing a task where they're attempting to drive humanity forward. The people that have got us to this sunlit upland where we all, have Netflix and memory foam mattresses and pints of Ben and Jerry's, and all of the trappings of modernity result from scientists and engineers and entrepreneurs pushing humanity forward. And because this honking bit of kit has succumbed to Trump derangement syndrome in a frankly alarming way that anyone with such a high IQ is clearly not an idiot, just goes to show what a state we're in. So this isn't going to be a comical video like most of them. This is going to be a bit of a rant, because I've went down a rabbit hole since I read this morning, and I've read tons of weird stuff where the government, the agents of the state, the full-blown authoritarian globalist sociopaths are rabidly hunting down everyone that dares disagree with them and smearing people from as wide a field as Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr, lifelong Democrats. Elon Musk voted Democrat for 25 years. And yes, even me. 10 years ago, I liked Bernie Sanders. He was my favourite American politician. And then if you somehow have whatever part of your brain it is that rejects conformity and think for yourself, I've gradually, as they've chipped away at my sanity, gone from being very, very socially liberal to being a reluctant Trumper. Not because I'm a one-bollocked Austrian dictator, but because the alternative is far, far worse. It even seems people like Russell Brand, he's got a hammer and sickle tattoo, and they're calling him a member of Adolf's barnstorming European stormtroopers. It's crazy. So I'm just going to go on a bit of a rant. I don't know what the topic of this video is going to be, but I'm going to bounce around a few stories that have interested me today. And yeah, you can watch along if you like. Enjoy yourselves. First things first, RFK Jr. If you don't know, lifelong Democrat, he was in the party. He was the second choice of Democrat voters only 6 months ago, and he was polling about as high as 20% with people of that party. The people that have got a shred of dignity and love for liberalism. Actual liberalism, not the whatever warped, perverse version of liberalism the lunatics that run the world are now employing. You know, that liberalism where you stomp on people's windpipes if they disagree with you politely. Yeah, that one. He was the second biggest choice with Democrat voters. And now they are smearing him as if he wants to dig up Benito Mussolini and give him a rim job on the 9 o'clock news.
I've never been anti-vaccine, but everybody in this room probably believes that I have been, because that's the prevailing narrative. Anti-Semitism, racism. These are the most appalling, disgusting pejoratives, and they're applied to me to silence me. And by the way, I want to say this while I'm on the record, that in my entire life, and why I'm under oath, in my entire life, I have never uttered a phrase that was either racist or anti-Semitic.
Again, he's been rebuked in the last 72 hours by many members of his very famous family. Delegate Plaskett, you start. What was the purpose? We'll deal with the substance.
That's it. It's been rebuked. He is a racist, and he is an anti-Semite, and he is an anti-vaxxer. Why? Well, we're not going to show you any evidence. We're just going to say it's been rebuked because someone who paid his cousin off said so. If that's good enough for you, when you can look at the man's entire life for the last 70 years, a lifelong Democrat from a Democrat family, and that's good enough for you, dare I suggest you would lose a pub quiz to piss Diane Abbott? Just putting it out there. You would lose a pub quiz to a bucket of snot with a biro. It's a ludicrous smear, And anybody with an ounce of critical thinking knows it. But if you're part of this sort of weird 10% that have been indoctrinated by the military machine, because we know Tobias Ellwood's admitted it over in the UK, these nudge units, the governments of the Western world utilise military conditioning to brainwash you. And if you're sitting there going, oh yeah, well, he might have been a Democrat for 70 years, but I watched CNN for 3 weeks, so now I'm convinced he's in the Gestapo. If that's good enough for you, you're welcome to it. Seriously. I don't know what to tell you other than I think you're a bit mental. And is also a lifelong Democratic ex-running mate has also talked about it. RFK Jr.'s ex-running mate hits back at critics after he endorsed Trump. They've lost their soul. Nicole Shanahan said she wants to know what happened to the party of when they go low, we go high. Shanahan responded to MSNBC's Lawrence O'Donnell, who suggested RFK had disgraced his father's name. And James Carville said he should be institutionalised. This is wild. I'm worried for them, honestly. They've lost their soul. They've lost their direction. Yeah, they have. They have. Words are wind. They mean nothing. When someone's got a life that they've lived for decades, you can't undo that with a few words. That only works on people that are a bit mental, like Stephen King. I watched an interview on The Spectator talking about the arrest of the Telegram founder in France, and it's all part of this global clique. They're all doing the same thing. They are rounding up people that think you should be able to have an opinion that goes against their narrative. And they pointed out that it is now a proven fact that the CIA and the FBI sent people to see Zuckerberg. He's on Joe Rogan talking about it. In fact, I'll just show you, so you don't have to take my word for it.
Yeah, so you guys censored that as well?
So we took a different path than Twitter. I mean, basically the background here is the FBI, I think, basically came to us, some folks on our team, and was like, hey, just so you know, like, you should be on high alert. We thought that there was a lot of Russian propaganda in the 2016 election. We have it on notice that basically there's about to be some kind of dump of that's similar to that. So just be vigilant. So our protocol is different from Twitter's. What Twitter did is they said you can't share this at all. We didn't do that. What we do is we have, if something is reported to us as potentially misinformation, important misinformation, we also have this third-party fact-checking program because we don't want to be deciding what's true and false. And for I think it was 5 or 7 days when it was basically being determined whether it was false, the distribution on Facebook was decreased, but people were still allowed to share it. So you could still share it, you could still consume it.
So when you say the distribution is decreased,
it got shared.
How does that work?
It basically, the ranking in newsfeed was a little bit less. So fewer people saw it.
Well, first of all, he's a liar. You can see by his rambling, stuttering, he's just a liar. But what it proves is that Twitter, Facebook, Google, YouTube, the lot of them, aggressively censored any negative stories about Joe Biden in the run-up to the 2016 election, which you can call it whatever you want. That is cheating. You can ignore the random bin liners full of votes tipping up at 2 o'clock in the morning. You can ignore the weird counting and the strange spike in Biden votes at about 3 a.m. You can ignore all of it. If the FBI and the CIA, at the behest of their masters, force billions of people to see fake news because they went to see YouTube and Twitter and Google and Facebook and Instagram and anybody else and told them you can't share that, it might make Joe Biden look bad, that's cheating. And at the time, my channel got banned more than once for simply asking that question. Facebook shadow banned me. YouTube continues to do so. This is all now a demonstrable fact. If it's being reported by The Spectator, one of the oldest and most reputable published conservative magazines in the world, I like to think I can talk about it, but you never know. You never know. Susan might have expired, but Niels took on her role with gusto. And yeah, you never know. They might still kick my bedroom door in and I'll get rogered over my desk with a prize-winning leak by 10 masked agents of the state. Although I am a bootneck, I'm sure I could stick the loaf on at least one of them. And now let's turn to fascist collaborator. Tulsi Gabbard. She is an utter disgrace. Yeah, that's par for the course these days as well. She's been getting smeared for years because she dared try to stop a war, because she lived by the principles that have guided her for 40 years. She had nothing in common with Trump. She was a vocal critic of Trump for years. And then finally, to push her over the line with endless attacks and smears and lies, And yes, you guessed it. When she was 18, she was really gorbals with tits. She was always one bad day away from shoveling babies into ovens. Of course she was. And if you don't believe that she was playing the long game and she was just playing a role for 40 years, you're a lunatic. Yeah, you're a lunatic, because CNN says so. And 4 or 5 weeks of programming from a mainstream news network is far more important than thinking for yourself. Oh yeah, and then last thing to rant about, because this global assault on free speech affects absolutely all of us, even if in the United States we're slightly more immunised against it than in the UK and Europe. Here's a brilliant story I got off Paul Joseph Watson. German authorities probe online abuse targeting Bundestag MP for being fat. One of the more ridiculous foreign data requests that Gab received and turned down from Germany was that they wanted us to dox a user for calling a female politician fat. Yeah, well, we've all been there. It's a good job I'm living over here or I'd be locked up, wouldn't I? Because do you remember that video I made about the Belgian health minister? You remember her, don't you? This heffalump. Yeah, more chins than the Chinese phone book. She's got a head like a water buffalo, and apparently she's going to tell you what you're allowed to eat. You should eat the cricket paste because it's better for the environment. As she eats a 4th stick of butter for the day. Isn't it? It's actually hilarious how mental the world is nowadays, and they just think if they constantly barrage the normies with absolute shite on the BBC and CNN, they'll all just stand for it. You'll shut up and eat the cricket paste and walk everywhere, while globalist politicians fly everywhere on private jets and 20-stone, head like a wheelie bin, cuts herself shaving and marshmallow foam comes out, cowhead with beady little eyes and a 6-digit blood pressure tells you how to be healthy. I mean, oh yeah, and if you mock them, if you're in Europe, they'll send the police round, because you can't mock a politician for being stupid. So where does this rambling video lead you to? I suppose an impassioned plea from someone who is, to this day, because I can't be bothered filling in the paperwork again, and when I got my citizenship, you have to pick a political affiliation, is a registered Democrat. I tell people now, I'm going to hold my nose and vote for Trump, and they go, oh my God, racist, sexist, homophobe. Gas chambers, invade Czechoslovakia. It's a mad state of affairs. So I'm trying to reach anybody at this stage who is on the fence. Even if you hate everything about the conservative movements, the right-wing movements, the libertarian movements, if you're an old-school socialist, there's a sliver of you that must recall being anti-establishment. Trump has myriad personal failings, but at this point, the managerial elite want to make it illegal to be impolite. They want to listen to everything you say and do, and they are rounding up anybody that facilitates you having a chat without a spook listening to it. It's crazy. People that want to end war, fight back against Big Pharma, and promote freedom of thought and deed are being labelled and slurred and smeared because they're doing a number on you. They're trying to convince you that your political opponents are pure evil. And you can see why everybody ends up in a gulag when these maniacs take over, because nobody is innocent. I think any socially liberal person at this point should be backing anti-establishment candidates wherever they are. AfD in Germany, Reform in the UK, Trump in the United States. Again, he might not be totally anti-establishment, he's a billionaire for Christ's sake, but it's the only option that seems to be offering an alternative to this neoliberal globalist project, which is staggeringly hypocritical. Staggering, mind-meltingly hypocritical. They can fly everywhere and eat steak. You have to walk to work. You can't take the kids to Spain once a year, but they can use private jets as much as they like. It's appalling. So even if you hate Nigel Farage or Trump or the AfD or Javier Milei or anyone all around the world who's just offering something different, hold your nose and vote for it. Because we're on a razor's edge here. And I think the world's gone completely insane. But that's just my opinion. I know that was a bit of a rant, but yeah, they can't all be comedy gold, can they? I'll tell you what, I'll just see what Diane Abbott got up to today, and we'll make something hilarious tomorrow. You know, you don't even have to try, do you? She was probably walking around town with 2 left Crocs on, or trying to phone someone using a fruit machine, or I don't even know. But we'll get back to normal programming tomorrow. Oh yeah, and finally, Stephen King. Taking weird, perverse pleasure in a very, very minor incident against a bloke who was a Democrat for 25 years because MSNBC told you for 12 months that he's a villain is the height of stupidity. It's ironic you're right about zombies because you look like you got dug up 3 weeks ago and reanimated by a crazed witch doctor, so take your head for a shit and stop commenting about people that are 10 times the man you are, alright? That's me for the day. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Please like it and share it if you can be bothered, and I'll see you all tomorrow, alright? Take it easy. See you later.